Hello everyone. Now, seeing as recently we've featured a bunch of, well, either very try-hard games or just very slow games, this time we have something different. The matchmaking is full tier 10, and the enemy has a Gearing, a Harugumo, a Grossboy, and a Howland, which is basically 4 good gunboats, or hybrid boats, and I'm in a Shimakaze. But that's not really all, because the build I'm running right here was voted for by my chat on Tuesday, when they can vote for ships and builds and such. And this is F3 Shimakaze with the legendary upgrade. Now these don't really synergize that well because the slow traverse and the torpedo tubes doesn't really work well with F3 torps that you generally want to launch at basically point blank range or extremely close range. So this is going to be a challenging game to say the least. Well, first of all, I am pushing towards the cap. The enemy has a Petro, but more importantly, we also have 2 Petros and they're both on this flank. So obviously, you don't want to enter a cap when this is the case. Because if they enter the cap, when you got 2 Petros pushing up behind you, you will easily get vision. The Harugumo tries to bully into the cap, but I don't want to. There's literally no point in going into the cap. I honk the horn and I keep turning and I'm like, please get out of the way. My torps are just about ready because with the legendary upgrade and full torpedo reload, my torpedo reload is actually stupidly fast at 1 minute 28, which is kind of silly. He finally realizes that no, I'm not going to stop turning away, and he lets me get out. There is a DD in the cap, but as I just predicted, entering the cap like this, against a comp like this, is basically a poisoned apple. He instantly gets radared, and of course I instantly open up and start adding my damage to the mix, because why not? The first radar comes in, and there is a second one right after the follow-up Petro radar. My torp said they don't catch him as he reverses way out of them, but being caught in the open like this close to us under 2 radars means that, well, obviously this Holland is gonna go down extremely quickly, and the Petropavlovsk focus fire just deletes him. So this is why you generally don't want to rush caps, especially when there's radars, especially when there's Petros that even after the nerf basically stealth radar you, and when there's this much island cover, also not recommended. There is a Gearing on the flank and they have a Petro, so I still don't actually want to go for the cap yet. I want to kind of deal with this Gearing who's clearly pushing this flank. I got so much support, and I got support that's actually willing to shoot DDs. So when this happens, I absolutely do want to go and scout that Gearing. This Petro is also playing very, very aggressive, which means, once again, with these fast reloading, extremely short range torps, if you find opportunities to use them, oh, absolutely, try to use them. I drop my set of torps once the Harugumo has glided out of the way. He actually eats one of the Gearing torps, which is a bit unfortunate. The Petro might be angling in, but here he makes a rather big mistake. He starts smoking up. And of course, if you smoke up in front of a Petro, well, what do you think the Petro is gonna do? No spoiler, he's gonna radar. So he does smoke up. The Gearing opens up as well, thinking he was the only target, but I was here, and in these cases, always shoot DDs when possible. 2 of my torps actually catch the Petro, so the Petro gets chunked very, very low, including having his damage gone forced. He radars as predicted, which means my Harugumo is probably guaranteed dead. So I start angling away, not really from the Petro, but more from the Gearing. The Gearing is gonna be shooting, so I don't want to get myself killed by him. Instead, I want to just add my damage to the mix and try to get rid of this Petro as quickly as possible. The damage output of the Shima is of course not impressive, but when you're trying to kill someone who's this low HP and who's probably used damage con like this guy, adding a fire to the mix and just doing some damage is absolutely helpful. And by the looks of it, my fire burns him down, so we do pick up the Petro as well. So now we have the DD dead, and this entire cap scouted, and the Gearing forced back, so going in and capturing C is a very, very safe choice. My Petropavlovsk does a rather... I'm not sure exactly what this radar is, especially because he's radaring while running away, which means that there's literally 0 chance it's gonna accomplish anything, but the level of play you see nowadays has been rather questionable. Still, doing that kind of clear before you go for the cap does make getting the cap a lot easier. In fact, my Petro is now pushing into the cap, and he's the one who's securing it, because, well, they no longer have any threats here. Of course, in most games there are more people than this around the flank, but if you do make that, like, you scout before you go into the cap, you make life so much safer for yourself. And especially when you're playing a Shima with what I would say is honestly a pretty damn potato build. I don't actually recommend the build I'm running. I'm literally running this build because my chat wanted me to run it. You do not play... I mean, if you're gonna run F3 Shima, the legendary module doesn't synergize very well, because generally when you use F3 Torps, you use them, it's very few cases where you can actually actively use them, because they're so limited on range. And in those cases, it's often very close knife fighting, basic close range situations, where the tube traverse is more important than the slightly faster reload. So I don't generally run legendary mod, but obviously Chant was memeing. I'm trying to tell my Yu Yang to get back, because he's decided to smoke up right in front of a Smolensk. And you know what happens when you smoke up right in front of Smolensk? The Smolensk pops Hydro, and then he starts shooting you. And the Yu Yang basically ignored this and just sat there, being rushed by the Hydro and killed. So that's rather unfortunate. The Grossoboy also smokes up. Those were the gearing torpedoes. The gearing is still around, but I do manage to dodge his torpedoes. He is not the threat though. The issue is the center cap. I need to push in. I've gotten the C cap, and now I need to push into the next cap. Try to give us an advantage. We're actually down 2 ships at this point. The enemy has a pretty significant points lead, so we need points from somewhere. Luckily, the Smolensk has decided to utilize this smoke to farm some damage and to cap at the same time. So I launched some preemptive torps. Basically, I make 3 sets of narrow spreads in a row, which creates this honestly undodgeable wall unless you turn nose in. Even with Hydro, dodging that is pretty difficult because your acceleration is not very good. And the idea with this is I basically saturate his entire smoke. If he's running Hydro, he's going to be forced to leave his smoke to dodge these torps, and with this much firepower behind me, that's going to get him killed. If he's not running Hydro, he already used it earlier to kill the Yu Yang, so he probably doesn't have it anymore. In those cases, well, my 2 torpedoes are more than enough to just straight up delete him. So the Smolensk dies, and that's cap control. There was a Grossoboy, however, and with my team pushing in, I actually suspect the Grossoboy might be trying to escape north. He can't really escape south anymore. In fact, looking at the minimap, he was pointed north. He could reverse out of the cap, which would be the safest choice, but on the odd chance that he actually decides to accelerate, I want to be the guy who basically blocks off his escape route. I don't want this guy to get away. We do have a gearing in A, there is a Smolensk there, and the Grossoboy actually does exactly what I hoped he would. He tries to escape to the north. And this is perfect for me. Once again, don't be afraid to use those Shima guns. My torps are almost ready, but I really don't want to be wasting them with this guy. I got so much support. Honestly, my entire team is chiming in here, and by the time it takes for my torpedoes to actually travel to him, I would probably just have killed me with my guns. You're seeing 3k volleys, and this is pretty common when you get the aim properly with these guns. The alpha on the Shima Ichi is very, very good. The Grossoboy doesn't really have any plating that can shatter it, so it's guaranteed pens. And I pick up our 3rd kill. Well, my 3rd kill, my team's 4th kill. We're still down a kill, but hey, the Grossoboy is dead. And we're no longer looking like we're gonna straight up instantly lose this. And my team should be able to pick up B. I'm tempted to go pick up B myself, but I'm worried about my gearing. He looks like he decided, you see his escape path? He's put the island between himself and the escape path. And what this means, if he gets spotted now, he won't be able to disengage properly, and they will basically just kill him. And it looks like he's in fact spotted. Yeah, he's spotted. So he's got no real way of disengaging, and he goes down to the Smolensk. I was worried about that, and I'm the last DD alive on my team, so staying alive is quite important. And more importantly, I want to provide vision for my team. So I push up here so the Yoshino is lit. I want him to stay lit at all times. The Stalingrad on the minimap, he used his radar, so he shouldn't have it yet, and he was last seen pushing this way. So I launched some preemptive torps first, in case the Stalingrad tries to enter the cap from here, or the Smolensk. Those torpedoes will block him off, or just kill him. And then I just keep vision on the Yoshino and call target. In fact, I had no spotting damage when I sailed here, now I have 24,000. That's 24,000, 27,000 all dealt to this Yoshino, so my spotting is basically getting him killed because the gearing was dead. I add in my own volleys to the mix, kind of hoping to maybe bait someone to charge into my torpedoes, but no one really takes the bait. I do, however, pick up the Yoshino, and so far the camp remains in our hands. 4 kills! And we're still down on kills. So this is obviously not going to be an easy game. Looking down, Slava is pushing in. I ping my team to get back. I can come and support them. There's the Stalingrad radar. Of course, if you're radar, there's no reason for me to leave the island cover. Yes, they know exactly where I am, but if I don't leave the island cover, they can't really shoot me. They can't deal any damage. In fact, the Slava, he kind of looks like one. You see that guy targeting me? There's a guy targeting. I'm pretty sure it's the Slava. So we're just gonna sit behind the island, keep the island between me and him. And when his front guns are behind the front island, then we can peek out and accelerate, because now he can't really do that much damage anymore. Obviously, I want to get down here and I want to help my I want to help my Yamato and my Petro against the Ohio Slava that is pushing in. So now the radar is on cooldown as well, so I know that I can play fairly aggressively, because if they do rush me, I can smoke up to disengage. We lose another ship, another Montana, so my contribution here is quite important. The issue here is getting good torpedoes off, while at the same time not compromising my teammates' maneuverability too much. Yamato is luckily a very slow reversing ship, and I expect the Ohio will try to push him, so I drop torpedoes behind the Yamato, because he will want to angle against the Ohio. If he keeps reversing the way he is, he's going to get broadside, so he will want to angle. So these backline torpedoes in that sense don't compromise his maneuverability. On the other hand, the Slava is probably going to peek around the corner, and the Yamato is in full reverse, so I drop a set in front of him. Slava pops up as expected. I smoke up. As mentioned, I know that the Stalingrad does not have radar, so there is no real punishment to me here. I land a torpedo on the Ohio, force the flooding, force the damage con, and I land actually 2 torpedoes on the Slava, which chunks him down really low, and also slows him down significantly. In fact, the firepower on the Slava is probably going to get him killed thanks to that burst. Slava is not a very tanky ship, and under this much pressure, he does in fact go down. So the Torps have helped significantly, because now my Yamato can just nose in against the Ohio, in which case, if he has a heal, it will take the Ohio quite some time to actually kill him. I glide a bit too far. I was worried about the Ohio doing some last final shots on me and doing a lot of damage, but it looks like he was focused on the Petro instead. So I just reverse out, and once again, Shima has guns. Use those guns. Why wouldn't you be using those guns? There's no reason not to be using those guns. I'm trying to basically shimmy so that if he targets me and gets his secondaries on me, I don't lose a ton of health, because that health is going to be quite important, because there's still 2 DDs and a radar cruiser alive, and our Petro, I'm not sure what he's doing. The Smolensk kills the Ohio. I don't quite get the kill, almost. That would have been my Kraken, which would have been nice, and I'm radared yet again by the Stalingrad. So the Stalingrad has me in his sights, and C is being capped, and I'm almost certain this is the gearing. Now I don't want to let the gearing know that I'm coming this way. This gearing has played occasionally. I mean, he's been a bit too avoiding against me, but generally he should be playing. He should have played a bit more aggressive against the Shima that he outguns. But at this point, I don't want to let him know that, yes, I'm coming full speed that way, so I'm taking it slow and steady and waiting out the radar. RPF switches to the gearing, so I go hunting him. I check how far away is the Stalingrad. The reason why I checked how far the Stalingrad is, because that tells me how close the gearing is with RPF. Stalingrad was 9 point something, so this gearing is 9 kilometers away and probably closing. He launched some preemptive torps. Luckily I slowed down, so I didn't eat them, hence the reason for slowing down. If you're being radared, other DDs can absolutely be launching torps in your path, even if you think you're safe. RPF shows that he's going north, so I send 2 volleys his way, and I keep RPF chasing him. It is a 3 versus 3. We do have the points lead, but they do have 2 camps to 1. Hoping to maybe catch him with these. Still chasing, still hunting. Note that I have a Smolensk to support me. Oh, he's gone this way, so we're going to launch one final set here, and then we're going to take a wider angle because he could be popping out right behind this corner. We slow down, see if we can bait him into potential torpedoes, and he is in fact here, and we instantly open up. Note that, of course, normally this would be maybe something where you want to smoke up, but I have a Smolensk as support, so I don't feel the need to smoke up. Why would I? Watch him smoke up instead, because he's afraid of the firepower support I have, and that's pretty much it. My team knows exactly where he is. He's forced to use his consumable, he's worried about me chasing him, and he's got a Smolensk on his tail, and the Smolensk knows exactly where he is. This is perfect. That's basically my job on this flank done. There's no point in me trying to rush his smoke and potentially getting killed by his torpedoes, or hunting him all over the map while the enemy team is pushing from the other flank. No, we've basically accomplished what we wanted. So we're just gonna leave him alone, and we're instantly gonna reposition. Now, the enemy team has last seen me chasing the gearing. The gearing has last seen me chasing the gearing. So the enemy team should have absolutely no idea that I'm actually repositioning. This is kind of like mind games, make it just confusing the enemy, and I really enjoy doing this in the Shima, especially if you're gonna run F3 torpedoes, because F3 torpedoes are only good if the enemy doesn't know where you are. Because you're not gonna you basically have to be within 8 kilometers to get them in. And the Stalingrad, thinking it's safe, is actually full charging through this flank, and I launch a full set of torpedoes in his way, hoping he's actually going to charge in and just delete my Yamato. But to my surprise, he actually stops and turns in and just slows down, which I really wasn't expecting. I thought he was going to play much more aggressive because, well, my Yamato was quite vulnerable. In fact, he slows down just in time that I don't even get a single hit. I still want to stay here though. I like this position. This gives me, basically blocks them off from pushing and lets my Yamato sit nose in. Once again, Yamato who gets to sit the nose in is very tanky. But then the torpedoes take down the Yamato, and now this is actually a potential loss. So now we want to find a way to get torpedoes in on the Stalingrad, but I still have 35 seconds remaining on my torpedoes. So we're just gonna wait. In case he decides to push in, we go closer. If the Stalingrad decides to push in and chase my Smolensk, which is what he wants to do, he wants to go there and kill my Smolensk. If he decides to go for this, he will have to do so past my torpedoes. And that's perfectly fine with me. And he does in fact go for the push. So we reverse, we want to buy ourselves time for the torpedo tubes to get ready. He pops the radar, and at this point I think he actually wants the Smolensk more than he wants me, and maybe he's hoping he can dodge my torpedoes. Regardless, it doesn't matter. At this point I only need one set of torpedoes to kill him. So I launch the Torps, and then I keep the following for the Yamato. I know he's here. That plane is his. He's right around the corner. He's nose in. He's got no way to disengage, and I got 2 sets of torpedoes and 14,000 health. Now it's important when you go for Yola like this, you don't panic. He's gonna shoot his front guns. This is fine. We're gonna angle in against them, try to mitigate them, but he's probably gonna get some good hits in. That's his front gun hits. He does a ton of damage. But now he won't be able to do much for about 30 seconds. And this is where you carefully, you line it up, you get the perfect broadside. You want to get that massive alpha in on his broadside. His secondaries kill me, but I land all 8 torpedoes. 7 was enough to just straight up delete him. And I get, well, I had a croc and I get a high caliber and devastating strike. Once again, a replay not really showing the achievements. And I finish off the Yamato. And with that trade, we have such a points lead that my Smolensk doesn't even need to enter, he doesn't even need to contest any caps. We're already gonna win basically no matter what. We have such a point lead. All he needs to do is not die, and considering he's got a good bead on where the gearing was, thanks to my earlier spotting and based on the torpedoes afterwards, he should be able to just survive for the next minute. And if the gearing tries to trade with him in the open, well, obviously Smolensk will easily demolish the DD in that situation. So he pops Hydro, and at this point, I'm sure there's no way the gearing is going to do this. Gearing tries to get some shots in, tries to reset, but Smolensk doesn't oblige him and just plays it safe. And at this point, he could be going full speed trying to hunt the gearing, but instead he's just calmly sitting here, just chilling, taking his time. And I actually really appreciate this. I think I even gave this guy, I gave a compliment. I rarely give teammates compliments for rather obvious reasons, but this Smolensk guy actually gave a compliment, and I think I even gave him a well played just as the timer was running out, because he utilizes the fact that the timer is running out and there's no reason to chase this for basically 0 gain whatsoever. He just sits in C. And with 15 seconds remaining, there is absolutely 0 ways for the gearing to recover this. It is somewhat hilarious that I had to kill half the enemy team, 6 kills, and it was still a 1 versus 1 in the end. I mean, some games really are absolute challenges. Yeah, compliment has been received and a good, well played to this guy. Game ends. 2 devastating strikes. Shame that was the Yamato and the Smolensk. Once again, achievements bugged on replays. I don't know why, but they are. Confederate, Kraken, High Caliber. Basically all the damage awards. Well, not all, but good chunk of them. 231,000 damage, 15 Torp hits, which for an F3 legendary Shima is pretty hilarious, and 6 solid kills. Team score wise, 3,300 base XP. Petro and Smolensk both added a nice chunk to there, and in fact top 3 killed 11 of their members and no one else really got a kill in, which is somewhat amusing. It does show as well, once again, how important it is to stay alive. You can see the 3 DDs, my 3 DD teammates, the Haraguma, the Gearing, the Yu Yang, all of them really just they played too aggressively, they got themselves killed, and their position on the scoreboard shows that. The enemy Gearing topped the scoreboard, and I'll get back to him in just a bit because he's somewhat amusing. Detailed report wise, of course, majority of the damage from torpedoes, 175,000, but we did do a bit of gun damage in as well, mixing it in there to get some of that extra damage in. And this is of course where it gets somewhat amusing. Once I jumped to port, this enemy Gearing, he said, I gave you a minus, aka a report, and he's sending me to, he's reporting me and sending my replay in for cheating or suspicious activity or whatever. And this was, I have to say, this is the first accusation I have ever gotten on an F3 Shimakaze. I'm actually pretty proud. I've gotten accusations in various cruisers and gunboats and battleships and all this, but I have never gotten an F3 legendary mod Shimakaze. Like, that's such a mean build to begin with. I've never actually got a accusation, and he was from the Gearing of all things. I guess he was mad that I just basically kept zoning him out. I zoned him out early on, I shot him a bit, he disengaged, smoked, and then I came back later on in the game, I shot him, he disengaged, smoked once again, and in the meantime, while he was struggling to carry his team, I killed half their enemy team. So this was apparently very, very suspicious behavior, which honestly I'm pretty proud of this. I've never gotten an F3 accusation, so thank you Lion32 guy for giving me this rare treat on a meme build. The build is of course the standard. It's the classic Shimakaze torpedo build. I can link you guys like the build. Normally you don't run legendary mod unless you're running 12 km torps, which is what I actually recommend. But I'll put a link like below to one of my previous Shimakaze commentaries where I'm running the much more viable 12 km torps and my recommended build. As always, thank you for watching though. I hope you guys had a great time, and I'll see you guys next time.